Yo, guys, what's going on? Lucky Cheese 7 is back again. He has returned to the roots that is the Naruto verse. It has been, if we're not counting Boruto, please. Let me just say that right now. If we're not counting Boruto, which, not including that in the slightest right now, it's. What was the last thing I talked about? Naruto Gaiden, right? Yeah. I think Naruto Gaiden was the last thing I talked about. Either that or the Mitsuki one shot. All I know is it's been a long time. But let me just come right out of the gate and say I've been looking forward to this. I've been so looking forward to this one shot for a very, very long time. You guys have no idea how long I've been waiting for a backstory on Minato. Now, technically speaking, yes. We did have the flashback in volume 53 during the confining Jinchuriki arc regarding Kushina, and that did also involve Minato in some way, shape, or form. But that was like just a glimpse of what we knew about with Minato. We didn't really get like a whole scope of it. And you can kind of make an argument and say we don't really get a big scope on Minato's like lifestyle per se here, but it is another glimpse as to what we see in his life, which I actually do really appreciate. Now we're already about 2 minutes in, and some of you are probably just thinking like, "Look, you just get to the discussion. Enough with the long-winded stuff." I'll just say this: if you are wanting to figure out where the chapter actually is, like, just I'll give you a hint. Look up OP and then type a Naruto Gaiden. The whirlwind inside the vortex. It's a mouthful of a title. But speaking of mouthfuls, we will get into the mouthfuls a little later. So we start off the one shot with Minato just on the battlefield at the front lines of the previous Great War. So this would be, I want to say this would be the third Ninja War, right? I think. But anyway, you see the tail beasts, Son Goku, and oh my god, why am I forgetting Hans Jinchuriki? He's not exactly a Pegasus, but y'all know which Jinchuriki I'm talking about. So you see Son Goku, you see Roshi, and he says like, if you plan to fight on even footing against us, you should have brought the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki, Naruto Gaiden, the whirlwind inside the vortex. Or, in my opinion, I would just call me Minato Gaiden, but hey, what do I know? And we see a couple cats over here, like right behind Jiraiya. Always good to see the goat. And Minato Namikaze, obviously. Tailed beast bombs. Let's retreat for now, Minato. Yes, sir. And then see the Jinchurikis. See the tailed beasts. Using the Biju bombs. Release the prequel of a hero. Masashi Kishimoto. Naruto Gaiden, the world went inside the vortex. And let me just say this right now. It feels amazing to see Kishi's art. Like, the man, let's be fair, the man has not drawn in ages. Okay? Man has not drawn in ages. I mean, look, Samurai 8 was his, storyboard. He was like the architect behind the story of that, but he didn't draw Samurai 8. Even though I personally was okay with the art style of Samurai 8, I can even tell that, okay, it's not Kishi's art style per se, but man has not drawn since, Gaiden. Or if we're not including Gaiden, he hasn't drawn since the Naruto series ended. So it's been like a well over like what, 9 years? Yeah, 9 years. It's been well over 9 years. But it's great to see. Let's see here. Hirashi no Jutsu, Flying Thunder God technique. See Jiraiya there, see Minato with. I'm assuming these are the two teammates of Minato's, which when I saw them at first, I was kind of like thinking, yo, are we gonna get some stuff with them? Because these two cats have kind of been in the dark for like eons now in the fandom. Like I remember when we saw Jiraiya and we saw like the flashback, we see a young Minato, and then we see his two teammates, but we don't get any context of them at all. Which is kind of the same thing here. Technically, we don't really get much context on them per se, but they do have a line of dialogue, if you will. They do have like certain lines here. Huh? Did I die? Is this the afterlife? Um. So we know one of them is named Dekai. Relax, Dekai. We teleported and escaped thanks to Minato's Flying Thunder God technique. And this dude over here, he looks like an Uchiha. Very Sasuke-like in terms of appearance. Or Itachi, I can't really tell. But I think this guy has a name too. We'll see through. Jiraiya says that was a close one. And then, so like two color, is it 2 or 3? Let me see here real quick. So there's 1, 2, well, you get the double page spread, which looks amazing. But 2, 3, yeah, so 3 color page spreads. Color pages, actually. Okay, be more accurate. 1 color page spread and 2 color pages. Done. Anyway, Minato's there, and he says, so this is the power of the tail beasts, and one of them is inside her. Now, given the fact that he said her, we obviously know he's referring to Kushina. And, dude, I honestly kind of forgot how menacing, like, old school Kurama was. Like, we aren't talking, like, War Kurama. Yo, War Kurama, I'm not gonna lie, he was a dude. He was a bro. I love, bro Kurama. But OG Kurama, like, back when, like, he was, like, evil as shit. He says, new vessel. I'll tell you now. Fear and resentment. Do you understand? You're more bound than I am. And, like, you see the shock on Kushina's face over here, like, with the eyes and everything, the sweat coming down. And he's saying, like, I will set you free. Come. And immediately, Kushina wakes up in a panic. I mean, let's be fair. If I had a tail beast inside of me and he was telling me shit like this, I'd be terrified too. No joke. I would also be like, ugh, I don't know, man. That's like happening all over again. And we see Kushina waking up. You see a picture of Mito Uzumaki. And she's like saying to herself, like, it's the same dream again. And the same scenery. As she's like looking out through the village. And then we see 2 Anbu looking members of the 2 usual guards. So kind of getting a sense of like Kushina's daily routine. What's your schedule for today? Sealing technique training with Namikaze Minato. Weren't you told about it? And then she looks over to the side. There's a butterfly. Which butterflies have a huge symbolism aspect when it comes to storytelling. I feel like a Bleach. Bleach has the same thing. So, and Tokyo Ghoul. I know Tokyo Ghoul had a few similarities with that too. But you see the butterfly. The whole symbolism aspect with the butterfly, if I'm being perfectly honest here, is more so regarding the fact that it's flying freely. It's not contained, if you will. And in a way, you can kind of say that's like how Kushina's feeling, just based on these first couple pages we see her in. And the Anbu members say, "Don't leave the barrier, no matter what." And she's like, "And the same usual lines. I got it, Then you see Minato, and she's thinking, "I wonder when Minato and I will be together, just the 2 of us. I won't hold back today, So she's there. She's like super excited. But Minato learns very quickly, and there are still more more sealing techniques from the Uzumaki clan. So let's do our. And then as soon as she was about to say something, Minato's like, sorry, Kushina," which she's like, uh, excuse me? Like, what happened? I want to train for a different technique in a different place today. That's what I came here to tell you. And immediately you see Kushina, and she's like kind of pissed about this. She's like, "What kind of technique?" And he's like, it's you know." And she's like, "And where is this different place?" The at the training grounds. Which, interestingly enough, if you look over here, we see Kakashi and Guy over here in the back. Like, I think you would kind of miss it, but I think you could. It's easy for me to tell because you could tell with Kakashi's like, his mask, and then he, we see Guy because I mean, who else is that energetic in the crowd? So at this point, I guess you can kind of say Minato is a. I have to wonder, is Minato a sensei at this point? I mean, they're right there. I'm gonna assume probably yes, but let's see. At the training grounds, a technique that you can't even tell me. And Minato's like, no, it's because it's still incomplete and a dangerous technique, and I don't want you to get hurt. And she's like, is that so? I understand. He's like, wait, huh? And she's like, if you don't want to be together with me, then just say so. Minato's like, no, 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 it's not that at all. And as soon as I saw this, I was like, oh my god. It's funny, but at the same time, I was just thinking, Kishi, are you for well, I guess if we're connecting this to the next gen, well, we know a certain Uzumaki has a bit of a popularity streak, so I guess it comes to say that genes do run in the family to a degree. They're like, "Hey, Minato," and they are both looking back, and again, we get to Kai, and he's like, "The third Hokage summoned us for the mission report. Don't make Team Six wait. Hurry up." So that's interesting. I don't ever think we actually ever got like the team number for Minato, so it's actually kind of cool that okay, his team number was 6. Which again, who is this man over here? We get the name of Dekai, but who is this one? Is that supposed to be? I'm gonna call him Sasuke's uncle because man looks too similar. Anyway, so Dekai and Sasuke's uncle over here. They're over there, and then you see like these fangirls like right behind them. They're like, should we invite Minato later? I wonder if he'll come. And Minato's like, oh, that's right. Sorry, we'll see you next time. And right as Kushina was about to say something, the Alma members like they get a hold of her and they just tell her to stop. And she's there. And look, if I was in Kushina's shoes right now and I was seeing that go down, I'd be a little annoyed too, honestly. I'd be super annoyed about that. Beyond here is outside the barrier, which we're seeing the spiral, if you will, the one that kind of embodies the Uzumaki crest. That's very similar to the Uzumaki crest, and in a sense, very similar to the Rasengan too, in its own way. But we see this. She's there, and she's thinking, "We came here as vessels for the Nine Tails, but before that." And interestingly enough, we get that flashback from Volume 53, which I think was like I think we barely touched on it in there. Like I know we get this specific scene, but we kind of dive a little bit more into this, where Mito says the vessel must find love and be filled with it. By doing that, despite living as a Jinchuriki for the Nine Tails, you will find happiness. Which is cool. I actually think that's really, really cool. But it also does kind of go back to another point in Kishi's writing where it's like, yet again, we're having the females kind of be centered around the topic of love. But I guess in this instant, it's not that bad. I think for this one, it kind of works in its own way. And Kushina's like, wait, love? Yes. It is not something you will get by simply waiting. And she tells her, like, come with me, Kushina. Mito-sama, you should be in bed. And Mito says, I have something to show to this young girl. It won't take long. So then we see her, and she pulls off the chains. She's like, well, what is this? It's Kushina's sealing technique. Hurry up and remove it so we can chase after her. So basically, these Anbu members are kind of scrubs, if you will. They are. Well, then again, okay, outside of Kakashi, a former Anbu member, and Yamato to a degree, but Yamato got sidelined super hard. Outside of Kakashi, and maybe Itachi, again, two former Anbu members. What have the Anbu Black Ops really done? Like, I'm being legit here. What exactly have the Anbu done in terms of relevancy? I'm just saying, in terms of the manga, what have they done? Not much. Like, these guys are supposed to be like the elitist of the elite in the Hidden Leaf. And they're being treated like nothing. I'm just saying. Let's go. We're supposed to be on guard for the host of the Nine Tails. The host of the Nine Tails is this to you guys. It's kind of embarrassing, actually, when you think about it. With each passing year, the binding power gets stronger. So then, from there, we see Kushina running off. And then she gets to the barrier sign. And she's like hesitating. She's like, do I do this? Do I not do this? But then, that's when Kurama steps in. And he's like, yes, this is good. Everyone from the Uzumaki clan became arrogant in using the sealing power of the vortex. You use that power and it uses you. And even now, you are drowning and bound in the flow of the vortex of the times. Full shot of Kurama, by the way. OG. Like, super goat and definitely terrifying. Only I can release you from the people who made you like this. Do not forget your hatred. Do not trust anyone. And from that, she holds onto her eye. Like, just tries to conceal it. Be like, no, I can't do that. The shot, in a way, kind of reminds me of Obito. Like, do y'all remember during the Obito flashback when he sees that image of Rin? It's not the same context, obviously, but the shot itself is very identical in that sense. And she's thinking to herself, like, I cut to Minato, who's catching his breath. He says, either you can do it or it suddenly discharges. It's rather unstable, is what Jiraiya says. And Minato's like, it's very hard to control. And you can see, like, the struggle Minato's doing, like, with trying to perfect the jutsu, which we know is the Rasengan, right? And Jiraiya's like, back in the day when needing chakra, I heard that you had to match it with the rotation of hair, the hair whirl on your head. If you do that, then this technique will. And Minato immediately like cuts him off by saying, "Well, that's just superstition, isn't it?" And we see the way how the hair flows, and Jiraiya says, "Not entirely. I always need chakra with the image of rotating to the right. My hair whirls to the right." And Minato's like, I see. Then how about mine? You see the look on Jiraiya's face, and he's like, when is this kid gonna learn? It's like, what's wrong? And obviously, like, he's thinking. He's like trying to envision like how would the hairs would whirl with Minato. And Jiraiya just says, one, you have two hair whirls. One hair whirls to the right and the other whirls to the left. And like if there's one thing I will always give Kishi credit for, it's always the expressions. The way this man draws like facial expressions and like comedic manners is always top tier. It's always, always top tier. Because you see Minato over here, and he's like, what? Then which direction should I need? And Jiraiya's like, I don't know. Let's take a short break. And then as soon as the popsicle pops up, I'm just like, I'm done. Like, this shit was depressing as hell. Ugh. The popsicle brings back so many memories. Both good and sad at the same time. But, you know. You see that, gets the popsicle. He says, which popsicle do you prefer? And Minato's like, either's fine. And then he's like thinking, like, wait, if they're the same, then hmm, what's wrong? You won't take one? And he's like, well, then if you don't want it, then I'll take both. And he's like, it's that's it, Jiraiya Sensei. If the opposing worlds are needed in the same direction, and then we see a little bit of time pass by, obviously with the way how the panels are transitioning, and Minato's like, oh, I've also heard that people with two hair worlds are geniuses, but what an amazing jutsu sensei. This is obviously Minato talking about what Jiraiya told him. And then we get the if we're gonna be technical here in terms of that timeline, the very first sight of the Rasengan. And he's like, it took form. I will name it. And at first I was thinking like, yo, we get the name of the Rasengan, right? Like we're gonna get it right here, right now. And I'm not gonna lie, I got a face palmed at this because I was like thinking, this is Minato, right? Because he says the halo hair whirl of Jiraiya inspired by frozen dessert twin style spear, which I'm like, Minato, my guy, you can come up with a much better name than that, right? Like even Jiraiya is like sitting here going like so lame and long. Guess he doesn't have a sense for naming. Well, I guess it also does kind of show how Minato was like in his youth. And oh, consider this. He is Naruto's dad, so there's that. And then he's like, is that so? At any rate, this completes the first stage of creating your new technique. And Jiraiya says, well then, I'm leaving now to apply for a different mission. And Minato says, yes, sir. Whoosh. And as he's over there, you see Minato like about to grab his drink. And Kushina hiding behind a tree. Which I can already kind of tell which comparisons people are probably making with this. Would not be surprised. Like, here's the thing. I knew the spoilers were dropping when I saw the tags on Twitter, so I decided to mute all the spoilers. I muted the servers on like Discord and everything too, and I was like, I'm not gonna. I'm gonna walk into this as blind as I can because the last thing I want to do is like know what goes on. Like in a one shot, I've been waiting for like ever. So you know, but like I said, I can already kind of get an idea of like where you know people are going to be taking this comparison at. You know, and he's like, why are you here? Is it okay for you to be here?" And then Kushina's like, not really. Well, the third has allowed me to go beyond the barrier. He gave me special permission. Like, she's obviously, like, just faking it. I mean, I was like, oh, is that so? Well, that explains why there's no guards around you. And Kushina says, anyway, I'm sorry about earlier. I yelled at you. Like, very earnest and very sincere, which, we learned a little bit about Kushina here, which I like. I like that. I mean, we learned about Kushina, like, based on her flashback from Volume 53, but it's also nice just kind of getting, like, how she was, like, like, in her teens, pretty much. So there's no guards around you. Anyway, sorry about earlier. You see the look on Minato's face. He's looking a little down based on his little eyelid, and then, no, I should be the one who's sorry. I broke my promise to you. And Kushina's like, that technique earlier, that's someone you wanted to train? And he's like, you were watching that? And she's like, yeah. Which leaves him a little speechless. Then says, the truth is, the reason I broke my promise to you was to master that technique you saw as soon as possible. Because I created that technique for the sake of protecting you. Huh? What do you mean? We're at war right now. We don't know when they'll put you on the battlefield to fight tailed beasts. You are our trump card for Jinchuriki warfare. So it's actually kind of cool to see that, during the time of the Third Great Ninja War, that they did actually use the tail beasts for, like, war and all that stuff. I mean, I guess it wouldn't be too much of a stretch to think that that would have gone on, considering that we know in the not the Obito flashback, um, the explanation about why Rin died was because they made, I think, yeah, the Mist Village turned her into a Jinchuriki for the Three Tails, but to ensure that plan didn't work, we obviously know that, hey, they failed, you know? I want to make a new technique that can correspond with your massive chakra as a Jinchuriki. Because I promise, or yeah, because don't want to lose you. This is wholesome. Let me just say this right now. This is like super, super wholesome. And if anything, it actually reminds me why Mina Kushi is still to this date the best canon pairing in Naruto history. History. Am I like there is? I'm just gonna say right now. I don't think there's any better love story in Naruto than Mina Kushi. As far as canon love stories go, Mina Kushi, like, they set the bar high. So it's really nice seeing just, their dynamic and just seeing, like, how they feel about each other too, in a sense. And you see the look on Kushina's face. She's kind of like in awe about it. Very similar too with the leaves in the background. And right then and there, Kurama, this bastard over here, like, he's like, oh, I'm not having this. He takes over. And Minato notices and she's like, wait, what's wrong, Kushina? This is tail beast mode. Which I want to say this is like the very first time I think we've seen Kushina in tail beast mode, right? I think it is. So she's there. Um, the chakra form comes out, uses the tail and slaps Minato across the face. Very similar in the sense of when Naruto went Four Tails and he attacked Sakura. So, yeah, there's a parallel there. Interestingly enough, scenario similar too. Similar in the sense that, you know they're under the influence of Kurama, and then Kurama just becomes too much for them. It's a little unstable. And given that, he gets the attack, and Kushina's running up to him, just saying Minato. And Kurama, Kurama says, "I told you not to trust anyone. One day he will use you too. Now undo this seal completely. If you do, you'll be released from all your suffering. If you won't, if you won't do it, I'll pierce you to death." Which is a nice, I guess, in a way, obvious foreshadowing, given the fact that he does do that in the flashback. It's a nice little, like, obvious nod. But then you see the sealing jutsu. Kurama notices. He's like, "A sealing jutsu? Who did this?" And then Minato uses the tetragram seal. "Kushina, get a hold of yourself." This brat, even though he's not from the Uzumaki clan, a shinobi of the caliber of the first Hokage, Hashirama, there are others like him still around. Did we ever get a comparison of that in the original manga? From Hashirama mentioning that to Minato? Like, I know they've had a discussion about they've, like, had a conversation of short, but, like, "Oh, you're the 4th Hokage. Interesting." But I don't know if we ever, like, really had, like, a full-on comparison of, like, "Yeah, you are like Hashirama in that respect." You know? And Kurama's, like, just saying, "Why does a shinobi like you wanna be involved with her?" And Minato states, "It's because I like strong people, especially those stronger than me." And he's, like, latching on to Kushina. That's why now this really got to me. Like, if didn't get the feels before, I definitely got the feels from this because holy shit. That's why I love Kushina. I can't bear to lose her. And you can see from that point on, Kushina starts to well up. She's thinking back to what Mito says. Now, the Uzumaki clan is scattered. We've lost everything. A clan that became famous for having shinobi attuned to the swirling air currents of the natural world, and that excelled in life force and sealing techniques. Our power has been used on the battlefield and drowned in it. It's like our existence has been sealed in the vortex. But I said our coward. Our power can bring balance to the force. The family crest on this house and this floor is meant to strengthen the sealing power of Jinchuriki. You can also match it with the person outside, as it's doubled layer. And Kushina says, "Can I really tame the Nine Tails?" To which Mito says, in my eyes, you are already a strong child. A child with more admirable red hair than mine. Or me. Same difference, actually. And she's like thinking, like, is this what you wanted to show me? What I want to show you is above. And then she's like looking up, and she's like, "A vortex staircase? No, my dear, it's a spiral staircase. Come, let's climb up." And she's like, "Spiral? A whirlpool is always flat. It's like an unchanged picture. But a spiral is three-dimensional. Even if it seems to be spinning in the same way, the floor changes a little. The scenery will change too." And she's not wrong about that because it obviously does. And as they're going up, you see Kushina just ask him, like, "What's at the top?" "The one that's inside." The one that's inside the vessel in me. And Kushina's like looking, and she's like, wow, this place is. When times are hard, I always come here just to gaze at the scenery at the top. That's the one that's inside Lady Mito's vessel? If I'm not mistaken, that man is. Yes. Lady Mito's. And she says, yes. Kushina. It's true that we may be inside the vortex, but if you try to climb it by yourself, you should be able to find love. Again, I'm not trying to make fun of it, but at the same time, I am just kind of thinking like, Kishi, Kishi, Kishi. Kishi, Kishi, Kishi. Power of love, am I right? If you do that, then surely the vortex will turn into a spiral. And obviously, they're like looking over at the statue of Hashirama Senju. Like, yo, like again, this is like just Kishi working on this, like just as a one shot. And the art, like I said, is like so top tier, super super top tier. It's why a lot of people wish for Boruto that Kishi was the guy doing the art, but you know, it is what it is. At the end of the day, from here on out, I hope you will be able to see a different scenery from this. See Kushina smiling, saying yes, and then flashback ends. Opens her eyes, uses the chains to which bounds Kurama down, and she says, I can still defy you. And Kurama's like, Kushina! Which immediately she snaps back to her senses. Man, that's something Manito. I said Manito. Minato brings up. He says, you've come to your senses. She's like, Minato. We'll do it together. The two of us. You damn brats. And he's like trying to like just hold on to the chains and everything. Using the tail beast bomb. And you see like that it kind of throws Kushina aback. But as it's happening, you do see the Nine Tails chakra like engulfing Kushina. Like in a very similar manner to Naruto during the Tenchi Bridge, yeah. During Tenchi Bridge when he like loses control. And like literally stabs right through Minato. Through the gut and everything. She's like, Minato, that's enough. Run away, get out of here. And Minato says, I won't leave you. I'm not gonna leave you. Ever. And she's like, let go of your ceiling hand. She's my Jinchuriki. You have nothing to do with this. And Minato says, no, she's not. Which confuses Kurama. He's like, I can feel it. We came here as vessels for the Nine Tails. But before that, that vessel must find love and be filled with it. By doing that, despite living as a Jinchuriki for the Nine Tails, you will find happiness. Which again, Kushina reflects upon that. And okay, I know this isn't exactly the official translation. I know that, but I'm gonna say that what Minato is trying to say is I'm always with Kushina. Because saying I'm always within Kushina, I don't know. It's like my grammar mode kicks in sometimes when I'm reading. So I'm like thinking, I think he's just what it's supposed to say is I'm always with Kushina, but you know, it is what it is. So Kurama's there, still trying to use the tail beast bomb. That's why I won't ever hand Kushina, like hand over Kushina to you. So like as the tail beast bomb is being used, Minato uses the Rasengan, and it causes like this big, huge whiteout. between all three of them. And this panel of Minato, I am not gonna lie here. When I saw this, I was like, dude, that looks almost like Naruto. Almost. Like, obviously, it shifts a little bit because, he wakes up. But if you look at this panel right over here, it very much looks like how Naruto looked. It's rather cool, actually. And then Jiraiya's there. Kushina's there too, obviously. Tsunade is also there. And we, like, instantly get, like, a feels good hug. Kushina, like, latches on, and he's like, ouch. You just see, like, how worried she is. He smiles. And interestingly enough, if you notice the panel, like, when she's hugging Minato, you see Jiraiya, he's smiling. Tsunade is smiling too, but if you notice, she doesn't have the Byakugo seal, which kind of makes me wonder when she gets it. Because if she doesn't have it at this point, it has to be a little later, I would assume. I also gotta wonder if Orochimaru's still in the village because he's the only one from the Sani that we don't see. Anyway, we cut over a little later, and Kushina says, We can finally start training. Hey, how about the technique from earlier? Huh? It looks like no, it looks a lot like the chakra sphere that the Nine Tails was about to use. How'd you develop it? On the battlefield, I saw the Jinchuriki's chakra spheres up close, so I used those as references. I wanted to entrust this technique to you so you can counter those Jinchurikis. And then this fool, once again with the names. He's like, the technique name is Halo Hair Whirl of Jiraiya inspired by Frozen Dessert Twin Style. Yeah, I mean, Minato's a genius, yes, but as far as like coming up with names go, like, ugh, silly. Like, even Kushina's like, that's so lame and so long. Which, honestly speaking, I'm gonna be really, really interested to see how the official translation words that, because I'm guessing it's gotta be something long, right? I don't think it's gonna be exactly worded like this, but it's gonna look similar. And then Minato says, "You really think so?" And she's like, "That technique was made for my sake, right? Then I shall name it." And he's like, "I don't really mind, but..." And she's like, "Well, then come with me for a bit. I know the perfect place where I can thoroughly think about it." And she's obviously taking Minato over to, like, the rooftop of where she's at. The place where Mito took her. And he's like, "Wow. So there's a place like this around here, huh?" And then you're seeing the butterfly again, flying over to Minato. And Kushina says Rasengan, spiraling spear. And Minato's like, wait, what? It's the name of the technique earlier. What do you think? Rasengan. So that's actually really cool. Uh, Honestly speaking, if we're talking about like the origin of the name Rasengan, that's actually really, really creative on Kishi's part. Like Kushina's the one that comes up with the name. And then the last panel we see is Minato like just smiling. And he's saying Rasengan, spiraling spear. Yeah, it's a good name. The swirling wind is finally dot dot dot. And then it says Naruto Here's the interesting thing. It says Naruto Gaiden dot dot dot. So I know this is a one shot. Okay, I know for a damn sure this is a one shot. Okay, but I have to be completely honest here. I want more. I honestly want more because this to me still shows Kishi's writing is it can be top tier. That's the thing. Like the last time Kishi's writing in Naruto, in my opinion, was like super consistent and super top tier. Was it funny enough the Kushina flashback? That flashback, in my opinion, was like peak Kishi. As the last time we saw that. So this to me, honestly, is peak. It's peak Kishi. And in that respect, y'all know what the rating's gonna be. Y'all know for damn sure what the rating's gonna be. It's a pure perfection. It's a pure perfection by leaps and bounds when it comes to Naruto. A, because the art style, again, is as amazing as ever. Kishi has always been great when it comes to art. But of course, the writing too. Now, like, I may have taken some jabs at like the whole concept of love, but I can't deny like how great the writing was actually when you consider that this was an origin about the Rasengan, and then learning that okay, Minato specifically made the Rasengan in order to counter the tail beast bomb, and also more so to protect Kushina too. But also to learn that Kushina's the one that actually named the Rasengan was actually a really nice touch. It was a really nice touch. And honestly speaking, guys, I do hope that this one shot gets like a huge word of buzz. I really do. Because this honestly could lead to like a limited Minato one shot series. I would honestly be fine with this. If like we were to get like say like a 2-3 volume arc just on Minato Gaiden, like do you guys understand like how good that would be? Like if we're talking about the writing and if it's like as good as this one shot is, oh dude, it would look amazing. Now, would it be weekly? That's the question. Would this be a weekly thing? I don't know. I don't really think it'd be a weekly thing that Kishi would do. And if it was weekly, I feel like it would be done in a similar vein to say how Burn the Witch was done. Like if y'all remember Burn the Witch, Kubo did the one shot of Burn the Witch first. And then we got the extra 4 chapters like a few years later. When was that? Like around the summertime, right? It could be a similar situation here with this where there's no plans for like, hey, a Minato Gaiden, story. But, if people love it a lot, which I'm hoping people do, then like I said, it could lead to that. And I know some people will probably say, well, we know how Minato's story ends. It's essentially the same kind of argument people would used to say about Star Wars. It's like, do we need to know the story of Vader? Like, we already know where he ends up. It's like, well, we don't know how he gets there though. And in this case, like, yeah, we know Minato and Kushina exactly. They don't make it out alive, obviously. That being said, though, it still would be really interesting to learn about like his life and like other things that he had to go through. Again, we know little bits and pieces. Like we know a little bit from when he was a teacher with Kakashi, Obito, and Rin, and obviously we know little snippets about where he was when he was in the academy with Kushina through her perspective, obviously. But we do know a little bit about that. And then this is the same thing. Yeah, we kind of get. It's more of like a duo story here technically. Like it is about Minato, yes, but it's at the same time an argument could be made that this is also a story that involves Kushina too. So, with that said, you guys, I mean, I'm almost like, no, I'm exactly clocking in that 15 minutes. So, it's been a lot of fun talking about Naruto again, especially just talking about Minato. And again, we would not have gotten this one shot had it not been for, like the 99 popularity poll. So, huge shouts and respects that I'm actually really glad Minato won, and I'm super, super like satisfied with how this one shot turned out. And at this point, I'm just rambling on. So, like I said before, it's a pure perfection one shot, and I hope that the response from this, if positive, leads us to getting like a limited Minato Gaiden series. I hope that's where this leads. But before I you know, end off the stream, I do want to say this. This is not the last time I'm going to be talking about the Minato Gaiden one shot. No, sir, it is not. I said no, sir. No way in hell is this the last time I'm talking about the Minato Gaiden, because when the official translations do come out, I'm going to be doing a breakdown analysis of the one shot, and just really kind of like dive more in depth with the story and stuff. I mean, yeah, I kind of did that here, but it's also going to be really interesting to see like the comparisons of like what the Viz translation is going to be, and then what the translations will be for you know this one. You know, doesn't really hurt. But with that being said, you guys, that's pretty much it. I'm Lucky G7. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more Naruto content. Hopefully, that Minato Gaiden series. Please, Kishi, please. That's all I'm asking. That's all I'm asking. Give us that Minato Gaiden series, please. Because this, again, is simply pure perfection. And with that being said, you guys, that's pretty much it. I'm Lucky G7. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more Naruto content and potentially more future Minato Gaiden content in the future. And I'll catch you guys next time. Rasengan!